During this disastrous Trump administration, when the country is reeling under full employment and the fact that you can practically order a cure for cancer from Amazon and have it delivered the next day, the nation's journalists have issued a new booklet of guidelines entitled How to Create as Much Hysteria as Possible from Acts of Violence that are about as likely to kill you as a bolt of lightning ricocheting off the guy next to you, then knocking over a tree that falls on a car that then flips over and lands on your head. The pamphlet, published by the junkie organization of uninformed rock-headed oafs, or Journo, begins with a preface reading, quote, "In this terrible time, when the candidate we wanted for president lost because she was felonious scum, it's very important that every psycho who kills someone for some incomprehensible reason be turned into a major news event and then blamed on Donald Trump and the people who elected him instead of the felonious scum we loved so very much," unquote. The pamphlet then continues, quote, "Although it's true we can't make the entire country hysterical over nothing because there are people with only a high school education who own dogs that are smarter and more realistic than we are, we should be able to spread panic in liberal enclaves where individuals with advanced degrees are already living in a fantasy world largely created by us in the first place. Since many of these jackasses live in Washington, D.C., their panic could cause real problems for everyone else who will then panic in turn, and our goal will be accomplished," unquote. The pamphlet then goes on to give some rules for covering violent events in order to make them seem more threatening than they are, and then blame them on Donald Trump. Quote, rule number 1. Some of you journalists may remember how Barack Obama made a speech about ISIS and implied that Christians were just as bad because they had fought in the Crusades. Some of you may remember how we praised Obama as a broad-minded leader for blaming both Muslims and Christians when only Muslims were to blame. Now, do the opposite of that. If Donald Trump responds to fascist violence by honestly pointing out that leftists are violent as well, accuse him of defending fascists and even of being a fascist himself. Rule number 2, when Islamists commit terrorist acts, make sure to point out that all Muslims are not to blame. But when fascists commit terrorist acts, make sure to say that all right-wingers are to blame and all Republicans, and especially Donald Trump. Rule number 3, Donald Trump can be boorish and inarticulate, and half the time no one knows what he's talking about, including him. Make sure to give his words the most obnoxious interpretation imaginable, and then pretend that what you said he said is what he really said, and then when there's an act of violence, blame it on what you say Trump said, even though he never said it. Finally, if you want to see these rules in action, you can just watch CNN, but of course no one wants to do that, unquote. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.